one true natural law is that all things seek equilibrium through pressure mediation. Now, it's very similar to what the second law says, which is entropy will increase as things seek equilibrium effectively. But this is the one true natural law. Everything that we see in physics is things seeking equilibrium. You open up a soda and it goes, psh, you shouldn't be opening up sodas, but it's equalizing to the low pressure around it because there's a higher pressure built up and it equalizes and it's instantly seeking equilibrium around it. If it's really hot outside and I'm running the AC, I open the door, the hot air will rush in. Quote unquote positive and negative charge is just one system has excessive charge, one system has a lack of charge. So one is charging, one is discharging because it's in excess. They migrate towards each other to equalize. Everything in physics, everything in the world that we observe is just a process of seeking equilibrium. And I think it's actually there's a very deep metaphysical truth there. That's kind of like the process of what our life is. I think we're here to struggle, thus learn. I think that we're in a process of seeking equilibrium, and when you actually attain equilibrium, you're no longer here, right? I think you go back to the source. So what we see is this geometry all throughout nature because of this process. That's what this geometry is. And that's where we get the honeycomb, you have the snowflake, you have all these different geometric patterns that are reoccurring. And you may look at some of these and be like, oh, those are different, but they're not. They all fall within the same torus field geometry. So very important to understand that all natural design is governed by simple laws of physics, energy, frequency, and vibration. Nature shows us the unifying expression all around us. The holy grail of physics is a grand unified theory and a theory of everything. If you step outside of just blindly believing what the mainstream has told you about where you live, if you can break out of that typically trauma-based mind control and think for yourself, then you'll see, well, we have a theory of everything sitting right in front of us. The vortex motion is a consequence of nature's vibrational geometry. You see, this is a ferrocell image of a magnetic field. And if you don't know, that is just ferrofluid with a few different types of oil you can use. You press it between two pieces of really flat glass, which is called an optical flat. And you just basically glue it around the outside, run an LED strip of lights around the outside. And as you put that over a magnet, the ferrofluid responds to the magnetic field, and the light actually lights up the fluid based on how it's being distributed, so you get to see the field effectively, what the field is doing. These are pretty incredibly beautiful images, honestly, and you see that there's a vortex in the magnetic field. This geometry being found everywhere, like we just saw right here, okay, really the actual manifestation of even that flower there, it has a vortex in the middle of it. You see the top left picture here, looks very similar, doesn't it? It is the same thing, okay? Everything is vibrational and all things are seeking equilibrium. Any true theory of physics that's going to really progress us is going to be a theory of everything. Everything's going to have to be connected. Well, it is all connected. There's a common factor, vibration and charge, what people call charge, elementary charge even. So everything's electric and everything is vibratory. And this is where you would get this depiction of where we reside. We have a magnetic field in the earth. We would live on that plane right there. And then basically you would just have the ripples within this geometry going out around us. How does day and night work on the earth if it's flat? Like, okay, there you go. Let's check it out. Oh, look at that. It's almost as if we can just perfectly replicate day and night on a plane Earth. And people are like, oh, well, why wouldn't it light up the whole Earth? Why is it not lighting up the whole Earth there? A local light source wouldn't light up the whole Earth. It's just a ridiculous idea. Day and night works perfect on a plane Earth. What about the summer solstice? Oh, look at that. It matches exactly what the demonstration does. It works perfectly. Look at it. Interesting enough, you see the geometry in both scenarios fits right within that geometry we talked about earlier. Yeah, because everything is that geometry. That vibrational resonance creates a torus field. Okay, well, what about when we see the sun set and it should set in a different location? Well, we actually can't see forever. We see in a circle around us. We're not Superman. We don't have x-ray vision. We can't just see forever, right? We have a limit to our view, and what that causes is basically like a dome around us, an azimuthal grid, right? We can't see forever. We can replicate this. You can take a light source and you can put it over top of a dome and you'll see that there's different locations. In fact, you see, if you look closely to the dome, you see there's a light source here. So if this was the actual sun or light source, if you're inside the dome, you're actually gonna see this. So as this moves across, you're going to see a different location. It's very easy to replicate. It's crazy that people don't get this. But so as you see here, the actual sun would move around, and then it would cause it to look like it's arcing over top of you, just like we see with crepuscular, anti-crepuscular rays, rainbows, sundogs, etc. Right? It's just, we don't see forever. We basically see in a little dome, and that's because our eyes are spherical and everything is the same geometry. You have torus fields everywhere, elongated sphere of a torus field all over the place, and that's why you see this. The position of the sun and all the stars and the moon are all perfectly explained on a plane Earth, understanding that we have perspective that limits how far we can see. Now here is the sun position data from longitude observations all along one longitude projected onto a plane surface versus an actual pinhole camera long exposure of the sun for a year. When we rendered it through the computer, taking all the data measurements of the Earth on one single longitude, this is what it gave us. That basically this fits right inside the torus field. Again, we're always in the torus field, and it's funny how it perfectly matches the actual pinhole camera long exposure of the sun over the course of a year. So look at that, the year data matches perfectly on a plane Earth again. So here we have a Farrell cell image of a magnetic field. You see the actual geometry, the lines here, and we won't get into the complexities of the magnetic field, but I'll cover magnetism sometime soon. And then you have here, look, this apparent pattern that comes from the solar eclipse. It's exactly the same. Of course it is, because everything's intrinsically electromagnetic. And so this works perfectly on the plane Earth position. Here we have all of the quote-unquote planets and how they move in relation to us observing from the Earth. Oh, look, it matches perfectly with the Farrell cell image. It's a beautiful, perfect, sacred geometry, flower of life, fits within the torus field. And this is exactly what we would expect to see, because that's what everything in nature shows us. If the Earth is in the center and not moving, this is what's going on around us. And this is literally what we see. And of course, what they say is, oh, well, it's just an illusion. And actually, we're flying around in here too. Okay, so you see that pattern, how it directly matches? This is all the quote unquote planets and stuff moving around the Earth. Here is Mars from a quote unquote geocentric position, right? So with the Earth not moving, this is what you get. Oh, it perfectly matches. And this is actually Kepler's little known diagram here on the right. This is Mars in the Tycho Brahe model. By the study of the orbit of Mars, we must either arrive at the secrets of astronomy or forever remain in ignorance of them. And that's what Kepler said. It's interesting. I mean, look at what it does. It fits right within this torus field geometry, bro. It's actually very beautiful. And here are all of them. You have Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, which are seemingly wandering lights at a lower density layer. But this is the quote-unquote ISS trajectory right here put onto a plane. And it perfectly matches. You have, look, here's another depiction of Venus and Mercury. All of this fitting right within the torus field geometry. This is a Farrell cell image of a magnetic field again. This would be a top-down view. You have the vortex in the middle. Then you have these patterns, this motion coming through. Like basically you have these little ellipses that would fit inside there. And then the plane would be cut right through the middle horizontally, but this is top-down. Again, we have the vortex here. And when we did all these measurements, of course, we used Michelson-Gale-Pearson, used the Sagnac effect. Sagnac said this is the vortex in the ether that we're measuring, and we consistently show this vortex in this preferred direction of light that gets faster and faster the closer you get to the sky, which completely debunks relativity and supposedly the constant speed of light and all of that. And we've shown that there is in fact a vortex and that you can measure it. The light goes faster in the same direction that the stuff in the sky moves. So if you jump in a river and you swim downstream, you go much faster, right? Because you're going with the stream, it's helping you. As opposed to trying to swim across it, you're going to go slower, right? Because you're going against the drift. And this is what we see in very precise measurements replicated hundreds of thousands of times. And so let's take the magnetic flux data, put it on a plane. You see this vortex is clear as day. And just like we see in the depiction, the vortex is here, and this all fits within this geometry. Here's the side view. This white line would be what's called a block domain wall, or an inertial plane, meaning it's unchanging. It's just a plane through the magnetic field, and all these magnetic fields have it. It's called a block domain wall. Well, you look to the top down with the vortex, all the patterns. So this would be us looking down from above, quote unquote, space. This is where all these planets are moving within this, and it's all centered around the vortex, and this would be the side view of the Earth, and we just observed the top half of it. We took the magnetic flux data, put it on a plane, and look at it. It matches perfectly. it's very obvious to anyone with eyes to see that this geometry is matching all the way across it. All the evidence is showing us exactly what the Earth is. You have to believe everything's an illusion, but we just don't have any evidence, right? You have to just throw common sense out the window, throw pattern recognition out the window, and you have to deny the obvious fact that all of these patterns of what we see in the sky match this magnetic field Ferrel cell image, and so does the magnetic field data of the Earth, all vortexing around the center point, and we would observe the top half. Right, and so the quote-unquote North Pole would be up in the sky.